Hi, my name's Barry Neale from Hypnosis Essex, and I'm a therapist who helps people with anxiety. And in the last 18 months or so, there's been a huge increase in anxiety because of COVID. And COVID anxiety syndrome is now a very, very real thing. And if this is something that you've been suffering with, I'm going to show you something that's going to really help you. Now, there are a number of reasons why people have been anxious in the last year or so. There's been a huge amount of uncertainty, but there's been something else that's been going on that perhaps you haven't been aware of. But when you understand how neurology works, there's a real interesting situation that's happened in this last 18 months that has made people's anxiety so much worse. Let me explain. We have two types of vision. We have what's called focused vision, like where your eyes converge to a point and they focus in on something, like when you're reading a book or looking at your phone, for example. And when that happens, what it does in the brain, it causes a hypervigilance. Part of your brain starts to become really vigilant and increases the stress response. Now, another type of vision that we have is what's called panoramic vision. And when we go into panoramic vision, then what happens is our body starts to take in more awareness. We have expanded awareness and the body starts to relax. And it goes into something called parasympathetic arousal, which is the rest and digest phase. So when you go into foveal vision, when you're going into this convergent, focused vision on a single point, your body goes into what's called sympathetic arousal, which is the fight or flight response, which has got increased vigilance, increased stress response. And when you go into expanded awareness in panoramic view, then the body goes into the rest and digest phase, into the parasympathetic state. And animals that developed this focused vision, this convergent vision, all tend to be hypervigilant. And when you're hypervigilant, it increases the amount of stress you have in your body. Now, normally, this isn't much of a problem for us because normally we balance this out, because we'd go from being at work and focusing in on something like a computer, but then we'd go for a break and we'd walk around, or we'd travel to work, or we go for lunch, and when we go outside we start looking around us and our awareness expands. Even walking from meeting to meeting and perhaps talking to people allows our eyes to expand, and so we would oscillate between the foveal vision and the expanded awareness, and the body would relax between those times and it would be okay. We wouldn't really notice it. So when you go into panoramic vision, when you go into this expanded awareness, what happens is the neurons are larger and they conduct electricity that much faster. And what they do is they speed up your responses. They speed up your motion detection. So for example, I don't know if you've ever had the situation maybe when you're out crossing the road and suddenly you leap out of the way of a bus or a taxi, and suddenly you get to the curb and you think, oh my God, I could have got run over. And you didn't consciously think about it, you just reacted and got out of the way. Well, that was because you were in this panoramic vision, which spots detection, and you are relaxed and you can move really easily when you're in this type of vision. Another example might be when you're walking along and maybe a fly flies in your face and you blink automatically and hits you in the eye, but you've blinked and you think, well, I didn't even see that, and yet I blinked. And what happened was you were in panoramic vision, your body was relaxed, because of this extra conductivity, it sped up your reaction time. A lot of martial artists use this. They deliberately, you can imagine being in a fight situation, which would normally be really stressful for most people. What they do is they expand their awareness. They don't sort of focus in on the person that they're fighting with and look them in the eyes. They tend to look about sort of the chest area and expand their awareness. As they do, they relax and they can pick up all the motion, so they can see the punches or the kicks coming. And so what we want to do is to start developing this. We want to start developing our ability to go into this panoramic vision, Because when we do this, the body relaxes. It's designed to take us into parasympathetic arousal, into the rest and digest phase. But when we go into foveal vision, when we start looking at things like, for example, our phones or a computer screen or a book or whatever, with really close vision, when we focus in on things, on specific things, then we go into this hypervigilant state and the body becomes stressed. And so this is what we want to get out of. Now, before COVID, again, this wasn't too much of a problem because most of us were able to get out and about, and we could walk around, we could go to parks, we could go and exercise, we could just walk from the office to the train station or from the home to the train station, and we'd be in this panoramic vision. But after COVID, when we got to COVID, we started getting locked down and things really began to change. And also in 2010, something changed drastically that has affected most of our lives. And that was the invention of the smartphone. Because for many people now, even when they get a break from what they're doing, the first thing they do is pick up their phone and they're scrolling and scrolling. Their eyes are in this convergent vision. It causes hypervigilance. It causes stress. So you're making it worse by constantly looking at your phone or looking at your computer screen, because your eyes are converging in, it's causing hypervigilance, it's causing this stress response. And so people are going into fight and flight more and more and more. And this is why there's been an explosion of anxiety over the last 10 or so years, which has just got worse because of COVID. Now, scientists have known this. Scientists have created experiments where they've put people into virtual reality type situations where they're in a kind of enclosed area like a box. And although the light and the temperatures and everything else is the same, because they're not able to see very far, it causes an increase in this vigilance. It causes an increase in their stress response really quickly. Now, things like claustrophobia. Claustrophobia is not caused through a lack of oxygen. It's not caused through the proximity of people around you. It's caused through the fact that you can't focus out in the distance. You can't use expanded awareness. And that's what's causing it. And so, of course, with lockdown, it made everything so much worse, because for many people who are stuck in their house and their flat and they're working from home, they're in these little boxes all day, every day. And even when they were allowed to go out, what would happen is they were only allowed to go out to go shopping. And typically then people were a little bit concerned about meeting other people. So they were looking out for other people and focusing on that person, thinking, I wonder if he's got COVID. Is that person wearing his mask properly? Oh my God, someone over there coughed. They're constantly focusing on people. And so that is again causing this increase in the stress response. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is to start going into panoramic vision more and more often, and to do it deliberately. Now, how can you do that? Well, one of the ways you can do that is by getting out. Going out of your house, going out of your flat, and looking around you. Now, if you're still locked down, and that's a problem, then what you can do, you can look out of your window. Just look out, start getting expanded awareness. Because the more you do this, the more you put your body into parasympathetic arousal, or the rest and digest response. But there's another way you can do this. So what I want you to do is to practice with me. So if you're watching this, put down your computer or put down your phone so you can follow along with me. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick a point of focus. Now, if you're watching the computer screen, that could be me, or on the phone, whatever, that could be my face, right? So then what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands out like this and keep looking directly ahead at me. But then what I want you to do is I want you to start bringing your hands apart, slightly moving your fingers. And as you do, I want you to imagine you're expanding your awareness so that you can see your fingers going out. You're still staring ahead, but your awareness begins to expand. And what you'll notice is that as this happens, it will cause a softening in your focus. Your body will become relaxed. Your breathing will shift, and you should be able to go out with your arms at about 180 degrees. And if you're moving your fingers, you should still be able to see your fingers moving in the periphery, but still looking forward. And then what I want you to do is just to hold that position for a little while until you become accustomed to this feeling. And notice the feeling of relaxation. Notice how your focus is softened. Notice how your breathing has shifted, because you're now going in to parasympathetic arousal, or the rest and digest phase. And so what you can do, even if you're in your house, is to do this 3, 4, 5 times a day as an exercise. Expand your awareness, put your attention on your fingers, still looking forward, and then walk around the house in this relaxed state, because then you'll start to retrain your neurology to relax. And if you do this, this will start to lower your levels of stress, and the COVID anxiety syndrome will begin to drop away. Now, of course, there are other things that need to be done, and this is where, I come in as a therapist, or anybody else, another therapist can come in to help with other types of anxiety and the uncertainty that we're dealing with. But this is something you can do right now. And if you do this, I guarantee you, it will lower your stress levels. It will lower your anxiety levels. You can do it when you're driving. You can do it when you're walking around. Just put yourself into this expanded awareness as often as you can, and you'll find your body relaxing really, really quickly, and you'll feel so much better. The more you practice it, the better you'll get at it, the more it will become your natural way of being, and you'll be much, much more relaxed. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, because there's loads more videos that can help you with anxiety. So until I get to see you, I hope you have a great day. Practice the technique and allow yourself to begin to relax.